Hold up.
Leah, I'm so excited that we have you today. So, could you share just a little bit with us about the company that you work for? Everybody is so excited about this because a lot of people work with nonprofits and ministries and all these different programs. And so, I'm super excited for this strategy because it's going to be a little bit different than other strategies we put into place.
Yeah, the organization is called PADS for Peds, short for iPads for Pediatrics. We raise money and put together these lending libraries of iPads for children's hospitals across the country. It's fairly new. We've only done a couple of donations so far, and it's been mostly self-funded by our parent company, which is a marketing agency that I work for. And we started this as like a separate nonprofit.
Wow.
So yeah, that's basically it.
That is so cool. What is the marketing agency you work for?
It's called Walker In-Store.
Okay.
It's a retail marketing agency based out of Monticello in Minnesota.
Really cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so tell us a little bit more about Pads for Peds. And one question that I have is like, how long has it been around, and kind of what has this year looked like so far? Like, what have been the highs? What have been some struggles you guys have experienced with marketing? Just share a little bit with all of us.
Okay, so the parent company, the marketing agency, seeded I think about $50,000 to start this app, and we've been trying to do everything we can to get additional sponsors to, sponsor this, because after that money runs out, we don't really have another source of income to keep the nonprofit alive. So we've done one major donation down in Kansas City. That was last December. And we tried to do everything that we really know how to, as far as like PR wise, to get, the story out, to gain more attention and to entice sponsors to want to participate, because if they see their, name in a news article or something online or whatever, that's like, good for them. So this year we've basically just been planning our next round of donations. The first one was actually supposed to go down to Houston, but that got halted because of everyone knows why. And then the other one is going to Cincinnati. So, right, like, it's not like we work on this nonprofit every day. It's just kind of whenever we have extra time at the agency, like I'll go on and, I coordinate with the hospital reps. And then I've been kind of stuck, though, navigating the PR waters, like writing a press release and, figuring out where to distribute that, and finding people to write about the program and stuff like that. So it's just been kind of stuck there.
Okay, so getting PR has been one of the biggest sticking points so far. Is the goal of creating PR, would it be to connect with further pediatricians, or would it be to connect with further potential donors?
Probably potential donors.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. And go ahead.
We've been striving towards like getting major sponsors, so like a brand, like let's say Target, for example, even though that's not very viable, but like big companies to want to participate and join in and do that kind of thing. We haven't really looked into doing like raising money from individual donors, so like somebody that would find us online and want to donate $5 or whatever. We haven't really gone down that road yet, but
Yep.
I'm definitely open to it for sure.
Definitely. Okay.
Yeah.
When you think about like the ideal donors, so I'm sure there are people where it's like, this is the ideal donor, it's the dream donor. What is that person like? Are they usually, it's kind of funny because I'm sure it can be anybody, but the dream donor, the one where they write the check and everybody's like, that's incredible, this changes the quarter. Is that somebody who is a millionaire? Is that somebody who works with a business that focuses on kids? What have you guys seen so far from donors?
I think our ideal donor would be a company that is looking to, you know, to donate money for tax reasons, probably is what most of them want to do anyway, and be able to donate probably in between $5,000 to $10,000 at a time,
Okay.
whether that's once a year or twice a year or something like that, because each lending library usually runs between $5,000 and $10,000 depending on how many iPads are in it.
Okay. And then when it comes to what the marketing budget looks like for everything, is everything done with like a organic bootstrapping grassroots kind of methodology, or is there a budget in place for marketing as well?
There's no budget in place yet.
Okay.
But we can go over that because we've never done any paid advertising or anything like that yet. It's just my hours that I put into, you know, putting together these donations. That's about all that's accounted for. So
But it's something that could be available in the future, right?
yeah, for sure. Like
Okay.
I know that there's money that could be set aside for advertising. I just never have started that endeavor yet.
Yeah. Okay, so one of my favorite things, we're going to kind of step back a little because if you guys are watching, this is something I think that comes up a lot with nonprofits is that they could have a budget for marketing. It's just not always the first thing that comes about. Like most nonprofits say, like, let's start grassroots. Let's, do everything organically. Let's not get investors, just donors. We need to get donors. It's always about the donations. And so the biggest concern that you have is like, how can we get PR and make sure that everyone hears about it without paying a lot of money? Now, have you guys looked into PR people in the past? And are you familiar with like what the prices look like?
Yes, we've contacted a couple of agencies and it was a sticker shock for sure.
Yes. I'm wondering which sticker you guys got. I've seen stickers of like 3,000 to 5,000 a month, and I've
Yeah,
seen
it's
the
about
stickers.
5,000 a month, I think was
Yeah,
the retainer. Yeah, the starting.
and I've seen ones where it's like $20,000 to $30,000 a month. It's crazy. So PR is not cheap, and one of the biggest things is your goal is to get good at PR without hiring somebody because that's probably not going to be in the budget for a long time.
Right.
Realistically, for most companies, it isn't.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I would definitely do is you have to get very, very, very clear about who the ideal donor is. So
Mhm.
as a company, I would spend a couple of hours saying like, let's take a look at all of our top donors. Like, what do they have in common? Well, one thing you can probably say that they all have in common is that they're successful. They're not people who are struggling, right? So it's not every entrepreneur. It's not the creatives. It's not freelancers. Sometimes it's not even the small businesses. Like I know in Minnesota, most small business owners don't have a lot of cash flow. I don't know if you've noticed that. They
Right.
bring in just enough, and then sometimes there's very low profit, there's very low cash flow, and it can be really hard to convince somebody to donate. So it's probably, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, companies that are successful
Yeah.
and established, if you guys could come up with like, we think that most of our ideal donors bring in this amount of revenue per year, that's going to be really helpful for the next couple of steps. And then what are they passionate about? Obviously they've got compassion towards kids, right?
Hmm.
They've probably got compassion towards, in some way, pediatricians or doctors in general. They care about the environment. They probably have had kids where kids are like bouncing off the walls in the waiting rooms or hanging out, and they see the kids that don't necessarily, it's kids who can't really afford iPads at home, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got compassion towards maybe like inner city kids or kids whose parents are struggling, potentially single parents. And what else do you think that they have passion about? Education, technology, and education.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I,
Yep.
li- I'm
So
sorry. I'm trying to take notes while you're talking. So.
So we're actually gonna, this is gonna be really helpful to you. You don't have to take a ton of notes. We'll take all the notes and we'll send them over to you after this.
Oh,
And
perfect.
that'll make it a lot easier. I'll send you all of my suggestions, but then my students will have some really cool suggestions as well. And so
Okay.
they'll also at some point chime in the chat. I know a lot of them are really excited because they want to work with nonprofits. They just don't know where to start. So the biggest thing is like, okay, how do we get this PR? How do we get in front of this ideal audience? They're successful. They're not struggling, bootstrapping entrepreneurs. They're people who have a budget and who are socially minded, who give back to the community, who care about kids and technology and education. And when you think about that, it's not all entrepreneurs, but it's also not all parents either necessarily. So one of the biggest things that I would do is step back, create that target market research. And then the other thing that's kind of crazy to think about is how PR really works. So I'm going to walk you through several ways that you can get PR for free for your nonprofit, because I know the processes that PR companies use. I've watched them do it. It's a lot of legwork, but obviously at $5,000 a month, like you think you put in a couple hours and it's worth it,
Right.
significantly cheaper. So there are several different sources for PR. I'm going to say something that's kind of crazy. Who here has had, out of everyone, say it in the chat, who here has had a client who's been like, let's put together a press release? We'll see if anyone has had clients who have wanted to do press releases. Courtney? Maybe a couple more people. I'm sure some people, William, people who are watching the replay too. Kay. Yep. And it's funny because it's like one of the first things that business owners think, like, let's do a press release and just put it out there. So I'm going to tell you something kind of crazy. The top PR companies, they use press releases, but differently. So a press release by itself doesn't do anything. And so a lot of press releases go out and then they sit on this page. Sometimes they get syndicated, so they'll be picked up by like the partner stations or the partner websites of like ABC, NBC, all of those. But if you take a look at what it really looks like, it's like on a side weird page with a weird URL. It doesn't show up on the main page. So the real impact of a press release is actually really bad. Like it's kind of crazy, but it doesn't actually do much. The only time that it does something is one of two times. One, if a PR company knows how to game the system. So there are occasional loopholes that game the system and get it put everywhere. There was, I think it was last year, there was a huge loophole in press releases where if you did this certain, set of steps, it would literally syndicate everywhere. And it would show up on page one. It was a huge, it's a very black hat. So it's not a legit business practice. It was very sketchy, but PR companies were doing it and it was working very well for their clients. Now, if you put out a press release, it doesn't really do much. So it kind of just sits there. It's a stagnant piece. But part of the reason too is because when we write press releases, we're not taking into account what our audience wants to hear. So the moment you start thinking okay, let's do a press release. And this is kind of true for anything in marketing. Let's put together this video. Let's put together this piece of content. Let's write this blog. We're thinking about, okay, what do we want to put out there? What do we want the audience to see? But what gets the audience thinking and moving and pulling out their pocketbooks? Like what makes them say, I have to do something. I absolutely have to do something. Well, a couple different things. It is human connection. People connect with humans. So whether they're connecting with you or another contact point at the company, a press release doesn't do that justice. Like you've got warmth and you've got passion about, do you call it P for P at all? Or yeah. So, so they're going to connect with you, but that it's not going to do it justice just being posted as an article. I mean, I think about even with Hurricane Harvey and everything that's going on and people trying to raise donations. And anytime there's just an article, it is so dry, it's cut and dry. Here are the facts that I can read through an entire piece on a news station and it doesn't move me. The second I see a video or hear an interview or see what the devastation is causing, and then they drop a link, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, yes, I want to donate to this. So I'm
Mhm.
going to kind of shift how you think about this a little with several different ways. So number one, I think that one of the best things that you could possibly do is, rather than doing PR straight up, like the traditional PR, is to
Right.
try to make a video go viral.
Okay.
So what does that mean? You're like, okay, that sounds great, Rachel. Let's go viral. So
Yeah.
when you make,
My head instantly started spinning like, well, what would that video entail? Like, I don't know.
so it could be a couple of different things. Hey, SMU crew, do you guys know who here has like seen what it takes to make something go viral? Who here knows what it would need to entail? We'll let them answer in the chat while I start to kind of talk about it. So a video that you could create that would potentially go viral could just be a Facebook Live with you talking about something, or even the founder of the company talking about what the company's mission is, what you guys are doing, the lives that have been impacted. It could be a video interview with a family who can't afford iPads. I'm going to mess up all my words. I'm going to be like pads, peas, pods, with a family who couldn't afford iPads, and they talk about the impact it's had for their lives. And the reason that these are going to be so powerful is because when you put any dollars behind Facebook advertising for video, you can get views for 1 cent or less. It's so powerful. So suddenly, if you're getting views for 1 cent or less, way more people can see a video for the same amount that you would spend on a press release. Last time I checked, I think press releases are like a couple $100s, aren't they? Like,
Yeah, I was looking last week on
yeah,
like PR Newswire or something, and I think
yes.
there's like different like tiers that you can pick, but I think the cheapest one was like 99, and then it goes up to like 500.
Yeah. So it's crazy. But if you were to put that same $99 into sending traffic to a video that was really touching and moving, and no one's really kind of answered yet what it is, but the biggest thing that gets people to share and like and comment and take action is emotion. So
Mhm.
rather than saying like, here's what we're doing, here's what we've done, blah, 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 it's, hey, this is a family who is impacted. This is what their situation was before. This is what their situation is now. And
Mhm.
here's how you can be a part of that. And so the emotion of seeing that before and after, or somebody who is within the company that's super, super passionate about it, and kind of the backstory about how it came about, I think that would be really powerful. Because I think, sorry, I just got something. Let me turn my phone over. So I think one of the things that it hasn't probably come up as much as it should is the story of why it got started, right?
Mhm.
What was the why behind why the owner wanted to start it?
Well, actually, it was a friend of mine. Her son had been in and out of the hospital for a long time because he had kidney and liver problems, and he eventually got transplants for both. But he was in and out so often, and he did dialysis over and over and over. And just talking to her about it, I just clicked in my head. I'm like, well, he could use like an iPad. Like, what better distraction for a 5-year-old kid,
Yes.
And then I approached my boss because we had iPads like laying all over the office that weren't being used. So I just asked him, like, can I buy one of these from you to give to him? And then the next day he came over and he's like, here, I don't want you to buy this, but I do want you to give this to him. And it was a brand new one. So I gave it to him, and I talked to his mom, like probably a month later about it, and she's like, that thing has been a lifesaver. Like, just
Wow.
because when he's sitting there getting his treatments, like he's so focused on his iPad that he doesn't even like see what's going on around him. He's like, she said he's been like more calm, more distracted, focused on the iPad, and it's just made their visit so much better. And then I talked to my bosses about it later, and they were so interested in it, in the story. And then later, a little bit later than that, they decided, they're like, hey, we want to do this on a broader scale. Like, let's start this foundation. Let's put these iPads in children's hospitals. Let's make this accessible to every kid that has to go there, and do the same thing. So.
Okay, so holy cow.
Yeah.
Who here is listening to this? I mean, Courtney already said it, but who here is listening to this and that completely shifted how you view the nonprofit? that story. Say yes in the chat if that's like, you're like, whoa, that story needs to be told, because that see, like, it changes things. The moment that there's a story and there's a person and there's the why behind it, completely transforms it. So changes it from, here's what we do, here's what we've done, here's how you can donate, to this is the story.
Yeah.
And when we slow things down, like, you tell a story and it transforms things. A great example of this is a family member, it's like a family member once removed of ours. They posted that they were going to be adopting, and they had 60 days to raise $60,000. And they posted the GoFundMe link, and they literally made like $200. You know, people donated $10 here or there, but it was just a post. And then they got some advice from another family friend who's great at marketing. And then I gave them some tips for going live on Facebook. And they went live and they said, all right, guys, so now we have 48 hours to raise $15,000 for our down payment. But then they told the story of why they were adopting. And they shared like about their struggles with having kids. And they shared the struggles of this girl and why they want to adopt her and why it's so important and why they need to be the family that adopts her. And they raised $16,000 in 48 hours. So it was crazy. And so the moment you get into emotion and the story, life changer. So it sounds to me like you need to be the person who tells that story. If there's some way you can have the video put together with you and the mom of the son that you supported, that would be even better. But even just a Facebook Live with the story, and every single time, if you tell a story, oh my gosh, it connects people so much more. Like, I mean, even as I'm listening to it, Courtney said it, I'm listening to it, I'm like, I want to donate. That's amazing. Like, what if my kid was sick? I would want other people to be able to afford an iPad. We have iPads for our kids, but like, it would mean, you know what I mean? If she was in a room with another kid, I'd be like, yeah, the other kid needs an iPad too, you know, so that they're not bouncing off the walls and they can just sit and focus. And that just shifted everything. So that story needs to be out there, and there's no way you can capture that emotion in a press release.
Right.
So one of the things I would do is, first and foremost, so the reason that a Facebook Live is a great way to start is because you can see the results of a Facebook Live before you invest into a video or find some way to get somebody to donate their time for a video. So what I would do is I would create that Facebook Live, tell the story, use the call to action, say, here's what we need you to do. You could put some advertising dollars behind it from the Facebook page if you wanted to make sure more people see it. Do you guys have an email list of donors or potential donors?
We don't.
Okay. All right. We'll go there in just a second.
Because we really haven't done any, like, we haven't really had many like individual donations. It's all just been companies that are providing parts of the lending library. So there's like 3 parts to the lending library. It's the iPads, the cases that protect them, and then the charging stations that they all sit in and you can sync them all together and stuff like that.
Okay.
So we had the cases donated by Griffin Technology, and then the charging stations were donated by another company called Kniperkus, I think. They're the Tech Tubs is what they're called. So
okay.
And then we bought the iPads ourselves through the initial seed funding that we had. So
yep. So then we'll get there in just one moment. But with the live video, with the video telling the story, this is going to be kind of crazy. So there are several ways to get real PR for free. And everyone who's watching, write this down for yourself, write this down for your clients. Although you know that most of the notes will still be in SMU for you guys. But there are a couple ways that PR companies get press for their clients. And I know because they pitch me all the time trying to get PR for their clients. So here's what they do. They do a couple things. They'll do, for example, podcast interviews. And it was really surprising to me that that is considered a part of a package for PR. Because a lot of PR people started to pitch me saying like, hey, I've got an amazing client who should be on your podcast. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what they're paying for? Like, to be on my podcast that they could have asked me about for free? You know, it was just kind of interesting. So PR can be podcasts. And I will be the first to tell you, podcasts are one of the most powerful ways to get free exposure.
Okay.
Now you're like, okay, well, what podcasts do I do? This American
Right.
Life? Do I do Serial? Like, where do I start? So
Right.
the biggest thing is you don't have to be on the top podcasts to get really great results from podcasts. So
Okay.
even podcasts that are smaller, that don't have a ton of subscribers, you can seriously see some massive impact from those, especially as their fan base continues to grow. So one of the things that I like to do is I will reach out to people where I think my target market listens to their podcast. So what would that be? It would probably be podcasts for tech companies, right? For CEOs of tech companies, or it could be podcasts for wealthy parents, because oftentimes wealthy parents are philanthropical, right?
Mhm.
Podcasts for successful entrepreneurs. So some of those would all be really good. And it's this simple. Honestly, Leah, it's so easy. You just send them an email and be like, hey, I just checked out your podcast. I really think that we have a message that would bring some value to your listeners. I'd love to share it. Would you be up for hosting me on your podcast? And then you can share a link to the video that you've created. And so
Okay.
keep it really short, keep it super not pitchy. And all of a sudden, you're going to get responses. Not if you only do like 3. You want to do like 10, 20, go crazy, do 100, and then you'll get quite a few responses. And then
Right.
before you know it, people are starting to check out everything that you guys do. And you have this new fan base of potential donors or people who could share it with their friends or their family or their husband.
Right.
So that's the first thing that's the first thing I would do. That would be free PR. Okay,
Yeah.
number 2, I get pitched all the time. So I'm a Huffington Post writer, and I'm not a fan of being pitched. It actually kind of like I don't like writing pieces on pitches unless it's something that I really enjoy. Like if I hear it and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I'd love to write about that. But all these people pitch writers, PR people, and just individuals. They pitch people and they're like, I've got the greatest company around. Like, you've got to check this out. Like, this is amazing. It's life changing. And then you're like, okay, what is it? And they're like, well, it's still a concept. We're a startup and we're waiting for investing. But I mean, I'm telling you, like, if Britney Spears tweeted about it, we'd be set. Like, that's what happens all the time with these pitches. So when I see something that's actually working and a startup and makes a difference, I'm like, yeah, I'll consider writing about that. So one of the things you can do is you can actually connect with writers and contributors on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Mostly LinkedIn is going to be the easiest way to find them and get to know them. So send them a little message and be like, hey, question for you. Like, what do you like to write about? Or if you want to take the time, you can even look at writers and see who's writing what. So if you go to Huffington Post, who's writing about the pieces that cause change, right? Who's writing about kids and who's writing about education and technology? Those are going to be the people who are most likely to say, yeah, I'd love to write about you guys.
Okay.
So it'll take a little research, but it's better than paying someone $5,000 a month. So you
Right.
see,
I'm really good at finding people on LinkedIn, so I think I could be.
ooh, that's something I teach everybody to do. I love LinkedIn. It's so
Oh,
powerful.
it's so great. Oh my gosh.
Yes. So what you can do is actually just research who's all talking about anything that is even remotely close to pads for peds, and just ask them if they'd be interested, connect with them, and then send them a message and be like, hey, would you be interested in this? Just keep it super short, keep it
Mhm.
as non-pitchy as possible, and explain why. Say, I think your readers, your followers would love this. It's very similar to this piece that you wrote and this piece that you wrote, or something like that. So a little bit of legwork is going to go a long way there. But
Yeah.
that's how PR companies get their clients written about. It's straight up cold emails and cold messages.
Okay.
Kind of crazy, huh?
Yeah, that is. I'm thinking I know this person and this person, but
Yes. No, it's pretty darn easy, to be honest. The other thing too that writers do, and it's not necessarily, or that PR companies do, it's not necessarily legit, but it happens a lot, is bribing. and you can get investigated for bribing, but a lot of PR companies rely on favors. And so they'll be like, hey, I did this favor for you. Now, can you do this for my client? Or they'll be like, hey, I want to send you some amazing gifts. And they send them gifts. And then somehow miraculously they write about their clients. So it's sketchy. I don't recommend it, but it's totally a part of the PR world right now. So that's another part of it. But I am more of a fan of the honest, like, here's what we did. I've got like an eyelash that's stuck, but that's okay. So pitching companies or pitching writers that you think would be interested would be really powerful. And like I said, if you can go live you guys have a business page, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So go live on the business page. The reason you want to do your page over any personal profiles is because you can't send ads to a video if you don't do it on a page. So that's where the paid advertising comes into play. So honestly, I think that would do really well. Okay, so can anybody guess what my last and final recommendation would be? Because even these are going to be huge for them being heard about by so many more people. Can anyone guess what my last suggestion is going to be based on the conversation so far? We'll see. Everyone's kind of tired this week. I'm like super tired.
I'm super tired too. Oh my gosh.
I know. Where's your office located?
Monticello.
Okay. I don't know where Monticello is.
So if you took 94 out of the cities north to St. Cloud, we're like right in the middle.
Oh, okay. So it's like on the way to my cabin. Yes. It's Alexandria. I think I know where that is. Yes. Okay. Nobody has any guesses. Let's see. What do you guys think? What about an email list? I have no idea. At least he's honest. What do you guys think? How important are email lists? How important are they for our clients, for ourselves, for everything? How important are they? They're gold. They're money. So the money is in your email list. And it's so tough because you can't see that yet, if that makes sense, because you've only had a couple of donors that have been big. And you're like, well, it's only been like 2 people. But if you think about it, you've got an email list of 2 to 3 companies that are gold, right? Like it's amazing. They're incredible emails. So you want more people like that and also small donors on an email list. So one of the things, until you're ready to start spending a lot of money on advertising and growing your list, you guys should be organically growing an email list 24/7 all the time. Have it going. So a couple of ways to do this. I'm going to give you a link to my free, it's totally free, my list building course. And it teaches you how to build an email list for free. There's only like 1 or 2 things that'll cost a little bit of money. So there's like an email sender that costs money, and email software. Wait, you work in a marketing agency, so you're familiar with like all of these things a little bit, right?
Like MailChimp or something like that.
Yes, MailChimp is perfect. It's free. It's easy. We've got, let's see, you might need some type of software for a landing page to collect emails. So like ClickFunnels or some people like Lead Pages. I don't like it, but everybody knows that. So getting your software for a landing page and then having an email follow-up are going to be everything. So when people click on your website, when people click on your social media, when people maybe aren't ready to donate yet but want to learn more, they should be able to sign up for your email list. So that when you blast out to your list or you tell them a story, okay, we've got a list of this size. This is the kind of donations we're going to see quarterly when we send out the quarterly or annual email for donations. So having an amazing list growing all the time. There's this episode, and this blew my mind because I always thought this was just for online marketers. Who here watches House of Cards? Do you watch House of Cards, Leah? It's kind of...
I've heard of it, though, but I haven't watched it yet, no.
Yeah, it's kind of intense. There's a lot of like, whoa, stuff in it. But it's all about politicians. And I won't give away anything. But in one of the episodes, there's this scene where a guy says to a woman, how big is your list? And she says, I have 400,000 donors. And he goes, okay. And she sends out an email to her donors. And either something big happens. I think they bring in several $100,000 or something overnight. But it was just this point in this episode where I was like, whoa, email lists are for everyone, every single company. Politicians, you don't even think about it. Do you know what I mean? Like when you get an email from a politician, you don't realize like they're counting their email list. Like they know the size of their email list. They know what an email out to their email list does for their donations. Nonprofits need to see their business the same way, because even though it's technically not profitable, it is still a business. So email lists all the way is going to be huge, not just for today, but for the long-term growth and sustainability of the nonprofit, to make sure that when you guys need money, you send out that occasional, not all the time, occasional blast, and it comes in just in the time that you need it.
Okay.
So who agrees? Who's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, Rachel. Email list, right?
Yeah.
I love the conversation going on right now. Kay's like, you mean getting the email list on LinkedIn? Ashley's like, hey, is the list building party? Why don't you ask me, Kay? You guys are funny. So there is no email, there is no business operation without a list. Gotta have a list, gotta build it 24/7, even if it's just small. The thing is, every single email on your email list is powerful, because you don't know if they have the money today, if they're going to have the money tomorrow. Maybe they have to make a last minute tax contribution. So that last email at the end of the year, right before the tax season closes, is going to be super powerful. I know I worked for a tech company, and the last email we sent out for the year was about, hey guys, like we know you have a little bit left in your budget, and if you don't use it, you lose it. So let's make sure we spend up the last of your budget dollars so you don't get a reduced budget next year. And we like did tons in sales. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. And I think business owners whose businesses are doing over $1 million a year are going to be like, oh yeah, I got to make a donation. I haven't even thought about it this year. I've been so busy, you know?
Right.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love all these ideas. These are, I like, as soon as we're done, I'm going to go and start.
Awesome. And so it says going straight to the inbox of the donors is big money. Yep. And the other thing to remember is that donors, they're not like somebody you just want to go to when you need something. The biggest thing that you want to do is, hold on, can you guys still see me? William said everyone's video went dark. Can everyone else still see and hear? Just double check. I can see you.
I can see.
Okay, good. Everyone can still see us. Awesome. So the biggest thing that is kind of tough to remember, so I am a little bit different than other like salespeople and people in marketing. I am not a fan of just like hammering people 24/7 for money. It's not my thing. So I actually send out a weekly email every week that like tells a story or gives an update or shares a little bit about my life or my experience or gives tips. So one of the reasons I do that, and I think my list really, I think they like me, but it's part of the reason that they stay is because I'm not constantly hammering them with sales. Like I'm delivering value. So even sending out like a monthly update of what's going on or a great story or a testimonial that you get back, donors love those. And if they're not getting testimonials, they don't know the true power of what's happening with their money. So I love this. Courtney says, I think for her list, she could do stories each week of the kids, updates of the changes and photos of the kids. Yeah. For a nonprofit, you probably don't have to do it every week. For a nonprofit, I'd probably go once a month unless you already have a massive list. Once a month or twice a month max would probably be good, because if you think about it, probably once to 4 times a year, you're going to ask for money. So obviously the less the better, but the smaller your list, the more money you need still. So
yeah. Yeah, that's going to be another challenge too, is we might actually make this part of our donation agreement, but it's getting the hospitals to share after the fact. And
yes.
Because as soon as we get that lending library in there, it's almost like they don't even want to talk to me anymore. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of like, all right, thanks for the donation. See you later. You know, it's like, you know, how's it going? Can you share photos? Can you share stories? And it's like, they're not really, I mean, they're so busy too, which I can understand. And that's their last, you know, concern is, you know, making sure our thing survives. But
Yep.
Just to find a way to like make it work both ways. So
Yes, definitely. Um,
mhm.
I think that would be huge. So you're gonna have to make it happen. You're gonna
Yeah.
have to say like,
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of red flag or like red tape too with the HIPAA laws and stuff because they can't just share any photo with anyone. They have to have
yeah,
sign offs and all of this other stuff. So,
definitely.
but yeah.
Yeah. So you could always do like a story with names changed for privacy with no
Oh,
real photo.
yeah, that's
Um,
a good idea.
and then you guys could always take photos of kids with like a photo shoot where they're playing with iPads and you kind of have like a mock setup of
Yeah.
what it looks like, just to kind of tell the story. It's not like fake. It's, this is what it is. This is kids
Right.
learning. Let's see. William says, one thing I know about nonprofits or ministries is this: people need to know and see how their money is making a difference. Yep.
Thank
So the
you.
more, I would say like, definitely add that to the contract. Like if they want to remain, in good standing. Oh, and Courtney says it's branding, not fake. Photo shoots are so important. Absolutely. One of the things like you should add is if you don't get a quarterly update or a twice a year update, they won't have the lending library privileges anymore, because otherwise it's like, how do you know they're even using it and it's not
Right.
being put somewhere weird? Have you ever seen like nonprofits where they donate a bunch of stuff and it gets put like in a closet and later on, yeah, how do you know? Like, I know that they're using them. Like kids need iPads, but just make sure that they're using it, that it's being appreciated.
Mhm.
Ask for numbers on how many kids are using it, or stories with no names. Like, is a kid going through chemotherapy and the mom was like, thank goodness you guys have this, I appreciate this. Brittany says, try to connect with the child life specialist. They may be able to be helpful in getting stories for you. That's
Okay.
cool.
Yeah, we have done that, and but yeah, I've lost touch. But I have like a huge list of to-dos now. Like,
Yes.
oh my
I'm
God.
sorry, but I'm also not sorry. It's going to be
Oh,
really
this is amazing. Like, this is so good.
good.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
What other ideas do you guys have, or what do you think so far? Does this sound like a pretty good game plan? Leah, I think this is going to be awesome for you guys. It's going to give you some good steps, not
Yes, for
spend too much money too. Like, it's
sure.
going to be very budget conscious.
Yeah. Hmm.
Let's see. So far, I love this game plan. What other ideas, or do you give me a thumbs up on the game plan, everybody? So it's cool because I have like the best students in the entire world. They're amazing. So awesome. Cecilia says, love the tips of emailing. I'm planning on implementing these ideas for my nonprofit too. Awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, I have the best students in the entire world. They're so cool. I
That's
don't
really awesome.
have I don't have a ton from Minnesota, but I think there's like 540 students now from around the world. And
Oh,
so, yeah, it's so cool. People from all around the world are on this one. It's pretty awesome. Let's see. William says, if there is a problem or issue with getting photos, maybe you could get some letters or drawings from the kids you serve and send them to your donors.
ooh, I
Awesome.
like that. That is really cool. I love that idea.
I love this. So we've got people from all around the world. I think that's an awesome idea.
Hmm.
Cool. I would love to talk for 12 more minutes, but I think we've got a great plan. I'm like, this is awesome. I'll let you go so that you can make it happen.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I'm
within
gonna
the next, I'll send you the notes. Let's see, I have a call at 2, but I'll send you the notes in just a couple of hours for the action steps. What would you guys do first? What do you think is the very first step, students, SMU crew? What do you guys think is the most important thing? Podcasts. Okay.
I think creating some of those videos too is gonna be
Yes.
like my number one step.
Yes. I think the video will be helpful for everything because it'll get more traction to your Facebook page, to your
Hmm.
website. It'll give you something to pitch for the podcasts. It'll give you a traction for building a list. So I think video is super important. And then between podcasts and a list, both need to happen. So it's like
Right.
either one. But I'll get you the link to the list building party so you can learn how to build your email list for free, how to get everything set up. If you don't already know how to do it,
That'd
it's
be
pretty
amazing.
cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. Oh, this is a good point. Viral videos. Reach out to a videographer to donate their time.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea too.
Definitely. So maybe somebody building their portfolio.
Yeah.
They can
get
do
up
some great
college
work.
campuses maybe.
Yeah. All right. This has been awesome, Leah.
Yeah, I love this. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for helping me with this. This is
Yes. I'm so excited. I can't wait to hear how everything goes. Everybody, feel free to add your comments in the Facebook group. I'll make sure that this video is available to you, the replay, shortly after this, just in a few hours. But thank you so much for joining us, Leah. This has been so much fun. And I can't wait to, like I said, I can't wait to hear the update on how everything goes.
Yeah, I'll definitely stay in touch and let you know, what
Yes.
happens after I complete all these.
That sounds awesome. All right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you all later.
Bye, guys. Thank you.